The colony ship Meridian's hope shuddered violently as another plasma bolt tore through its starboard hull. Massey gripped the corridor railing, his knuckles white against the cold metal. Around him, chaos erupted, aliens of a dozen species scrambling for escape pods, their translators screaming warnings in overlapping frequencies. He shouldn't have been there. A simple cargo hauler from Earth. Massey had signed up for what was supposed to be a routine supply run to the outer colonies. But the Kresh raiders had other plans. The insectoid marauders were infamous across 3 sectors for their brutality, taking no prisoners and leaving no survivors. Through the smoke and flashing emergency lights, Massey spotted her, a small figure huddled against the wall, violet skin gleaming with tears. She couldn't have been more than 7 cycles old by Zentari standards, her fur eyes wide with terror as debris rained around her. The child's crystalline horns, barely developed, caught the emergency lights like prisms. "Annie," a distant voice cried out, desperate and fading. The girl's mother, Massey realized. Somewhere in the collapsing section beyond the sealed blast doors, the ship lurched again. A support beam groaned overhead, and Massey's combat instincts honed during his brief stint in the Terran Defense Force Skikton. He saw it before it happened, the beam's structural integrity failing, the trajectory, the impact zone. Right where little Annie stood frozen, time crystallized. His body moved before his mind caught up. Massey launched himself across the corridor, his boots finding purchase on the blood-slicked floor. He wrapped his arms around Annie's small frame and twisted, putting his back between her and the collapsing infrastructure. The beam struck like the fist of an angry god. But it wasn't just the beam. Jagged shrapnel from the exploding conduits peppered his back, tearing through his jacket and into flesh. Massey felt white-hot agony lance through his spine, his ribs, his left shoulder. He heard Annie scream, felt her tiny hands clutching his shirt. His last conscious thought was relief that she was still screaming, still alive. Consciousness returned slowly, like surfacing from deep water. Massey became aware of softness, first too soft for a military med bay, then warmth and the subtle fragrance of something floral he couldn't identify. His eyelids felt weighted, but he forced them open. The ceiling above him rippled with bioluminescent patterns, colors shifting in gentle waves. Not human design. He tried to move and immediately regretted it. His body felt like it had been reconstructed. From spare parts, careful. Human Massey. The voice was melodic, speaking perfect English, but with an ethereal quality. A face entered his vision, elegant features, skin like polished lavender, eyes that held galaxies. Your injuries were extensive. Memory flooded back. The ship. The attack. Annie. The girl. He croaked, his throat raw. Purple. Zentari child. Ishishi as well. The alien doctor, or what Massey assumed was a doctor, smiled gently. Because of you. You absorbed impacts that would have killed her 3 times over. The Zentari Council wishes to speak with you when you are recovered. How long? 3 weeks. You've been in induced stasis while we repaired you. 3 weeks. Massey tried to process that. The raiders, driven off. The Meridian's hope survived, thanks to a galactic coalition patrol arriving just in time. The doctor moved aside, revealing a viewport. Beyond it, Massey could see an orbital station, massive and beautiful, ringed with ships of countless designs. You are on Sanctuary Prime, the Coalition's primary civilian station. You are quite famous here. Famous? Massey managed a weak laugh that turned into a cough. The door whispered open. A small figure burst through, violet skin glowing with health. Crystalline horns now wrapped in colorful ribbons. Annie ran to his bedside, her fur eyes swimming with tears, but these were tears of joy. Massey. Massey. She clutched his hand with surprising strength. Behind her came an elegant Zentari female, clearly her mother, and a delegation of various aliens in formal attire. The mother approached, her translator crystal pulsing at her throat. Human Massey, I am Councillor Vryanesh. You saved my daughter when you had no obligation to do so, when fleeing would have been the logical choice. Wasn't much of a choice, Massey said honestly. She's a kid. Vryanesh and the other councillors exchanged glances, something passing between them that Massey didn't quite understand. You see, said an elderly alien resembling a bipedal amphibian. That is precisely what makes your species so Remarkable. The Galactic Coalition has observed humanity since your first contact. We've watched you with curiosity and, admittedly, some concern. Your species is aggressive, adaptable, stubbornly resilient. But this, Vryanesh gestured to Annie, still clutching Massey's hand. This is what we failed to fully comprehend. Humans possess something that most spacefaring species have evolved beyond, or never possessed: an instinctive, illogical willingness to sacrifice yourselves for strangers, not for gain, not for strategy, simply because it is right. Another counselor stepped forward, her scales shimmering gold. 12 other species were in that corridor during the attack. Only the human moved to save a child not his own. Massey felt uncomfortable with the attention. Others would have. No, the amphibian cut him off gently but firmly. 63 security recordings analyzed. 12 species. Thousands of individuals encountered similar situations during the raid. You were the only one who didn't calculate the cost first. Vryanesh knelt beside his bed, placing her hand over his. The Coalition has extended an offer to humanity: full membership, accelerated integration, seats on the High Council. Because if humans instinctively protect the vulnerable at cost to themselves, we want them standing between our children and the darkness. Annie squeezed his hand, smiling. Through the viewport, Massey could see Earth ships arriving, their blue and green insignias bright against the stars. The galaxy had noticed humanity, all right, not for their weapons or their technology, but for something far more powerful: their humanity itself. Massey smiled back at Annie and closed his eyes, letting the warmth of her gratitude wash over him. Maybe this was the real first contact, not when humanity reached the stars, but when the stars learned what humanity truly was.